afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. My name is Kristen, and I am the Integro webinar moderator. If you're new to Integro's webinar series, hello, welcome. We do webinars once a month, and we always keep them to 30 minutes. So it's quick and valuable and the best use of your time. We know you guys are all very, very busy. Today, we're going to be talking about email management. And on the line with me, I have two gentlemen from Integro. The first is Brian Stark, he's our main presenter, and the second is Scott Burt, the CEO here at Integro. Scott's going to be introducing Brian quickly in a moment, but before he does, I have a few quick housekeeping notes. The first is that we encourage you to ask questions during this webinar, and if you have questions at any point, please ask them in the question box on the sidebar, and all of them will be answered at the end. And the second is we always encourage you to maximize your screen as well. So you can do that in the upper right-hand corner. Without further ado, I just want to say thank you again for joining us, and let Scott take it away.
Excellent, Kristen. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate that. And Kristen, we appreciate all your work that you do to run these webinars. We get such great reviews. And I turned on the camera there for a brief minute just to say hi to everybody. I'll turn it off here in a moment. And it's not fair that I get equal billing with Brian, as he's the one that will be presenting today and is knee-deep in a very large implementation that he's going to tell you about here in a few minutes. But this topic is so important. We have so many, for years we've been talking about this since the federal rules of civil procedure were going to get changed clear back in 2006. And here we are 11 years later, and the topic is important and prominent now in the discussions as ever, as more and more companies are continuing to realize that keeping all your email is just not a smart approach, and the amount of money and the risk that is exposed and used to address the vast volumes of email, it's just ridiculous. And so when only a very small portion of email is necessary to be retained versus the vast flood of email that we get, it's so smart to keep only the few important emails. So the key then is how to do it, and Brian's on the front line. This thing is all education, guys. We're not pitching any products today, just giving some good advice for you and your program that I think will help you. So Brian, thanks for taking the time today, and I hope everybody enjoys this.
Well, thank you, Scott. Yeah, this is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, is implementing an email management program. And boy, I tell you, really got thrown into the fire on this one just because of the size of the project. So for today's agenda, we're going to do a little overview of the project. We're going to talk about what email management is and what it is not. And then we're going to talk about some considerations in the user experience. And then I want to give you some keys to success, as well as lessons that we've learned as we've rolled this out to our company. And then we're going to talk about the communications plan, and I do want to leave some time open for Q&A at the end. So for this project, we're working with a Fortune 500 company that currently has 70,000 employees. Now, when we started the project, I think they had about 55,000 employees. They did do a purchase in the meantime, which bumped them up over 70,000. So when you consider that we're rolling out the scope of the initial project to 25 to 30,000 employees, that was more than half of their company. So far, we've rolled out to about 20,500 employees. That was as of the 18th of July. We have 2 more deployment waves to go with a couple of departments, and email management is actually the first step in a brand new records management program. So one of the things that really surprised me was, one, they didn't have a program, but I think they're tackling maybe the toughest part, which is email management first. They're not looking at their shared drives, they're not looking at their other record keeping system. They're starting off with email management. Now, I think they're going to see some benefits from that in the fact that email is something that the employees use every day. So they're going to get very ingrained into what kind of records they have and where records are located right from the beginning. So as they roll out to the other sources of information where they keep records, they're going to know exactly what they're looking for. So I think that was pretty smart on their part. culture of the company when they started was to save everything. They had emails going back, oh gosh, before 2000. And they really are making a concerted effort to moving towards saving only records. And we'll talk about how they're doing that in a minute here. One of the important things, this was highlighted from the very beginning, minimize the impact on their employees. I'm sure the same is with your company. Everybody is really busy and don't want to take up a lot of extra time, a lot of extra thought with how are we going to get this done, or what is it going to mean for me? We want to minimize that impact to their employees. So let's talk first about what email management is not. And we pulled this slide from an AIM presentation that was done a while back, but it's still very true. I'm not going to read through all of these, but a couple that I want to highlight. Email management is not saving all your email messages forever. In the training that we do with this company's employees, we looked at how much email they were actually saving, and data-wise, they had more in email than all of the photos that have been saved on Facebook. So when you consider how much they had been keeping forever, and everything from really important records to, hey, there's donuts in the lunchroom, all of that was being saved. So email management is not saving everything forever, nor is it doing nothing and just letting the problem continue to grow, because at some point, every organization is going to have to deal with their email. So what email management meant for this customer, again, capturing only emails that are records. And when we do our training with these employees, we talk very specifically about how they're using email and where the records are actually kept. So for instance, if I keep a budget in our SharePoint site for this company, that's where the record lives. And if I'm just simply transferring a copy of that budget to another teammate for their review, then we're not capturing that. We're not asking them to tag that as a record, because the record is kept somewhere else. They're just passing information. So that is really a big highlight for them. And what we're actually finding is that about 2 to 5% for the average employee is all that where the record actually lives in email. Some teammates, it's a little higher. They may have a different job role, which they're doing a lot of approvals through emails, or they're giving, say, compliance advice or legal advice, and the only place that that messaging is kept is in email, then they're tagging things as a record. But for most employees, it's 2 to 5%. So as you get ready to do an email project, here's some things you want to think about before you begin. First of all, I know I'm part of ARMA, and we've talked about how to run projects from very early on. The first thing we always say is get senior level management approval is critical if you're going to roll out a big new program. This company took that a step beyond. So when we started rolling out the tool, or after we finished our pilot program, started rolling out the tool, the first group that we rolled out to was the VPs and above, all the way up to the CEOs. They're the first ones to get the tool. The second group that we rolled out to was the directors, their next level down of management. And then we started rolling out to the departments. Now, I was a little nervous about this, to be honest with you. I think Scott would agree with that. We had several discussions. But in this case, the company wanted to make sure that they had total buy-in from their executive management. It was a very bold move that they took, and it's paying a lot of dividends because the upper level management is very aware of what's going on with it. This company is highly competitive among its divisions for adoption for new tools. And so as we're tracking this, the senior managers are getting involved, and they're telling their direct reports and filtering the information down, hey, you guys are not adopting this, we need to get on board and we need to get going with this. So really a step beyond. I was really impressed with that. The second item I'm going to point out here is to develop your pilot program and records champions. these are crucial for the success of the program. So when you're developing your pilot program, you want a wide variety all across the organization. In this case, we ended up piloting to about 300 employees, and we were getting a lot of good feedback on everything from how the tool was working, errors that they were running across, changes that we could make in training so that people would understand what they needed to do. And that ran for about 3 months before we started our first rollout. And you know, at that point, we were really looking for feedback from the employees so that we could roll out a good product, and we got it. It was really exciting to see. So then when we did our general rollout to the rest of the company, we kind of had to switch gears. It was less soliciting feedback and more providing training and answers, both about the tool and about records management in general, because they didn't have a records management program to begin with. So we had to really switch gears quickly and be prepared to change. So some considerations when you're looking to roll out a program like this. You want to think about the end user experience and how this new tool is going to act, and what are the employees, what benefit are the employees going to have. So in this case, working with the company, I think the biggest benefit they've had is a lot of the employees are saying, I have so much junk in my email that I didn't know what to do with. And it really, I remember specifically, at least 2 teammates told me at the very beginning, I'm so relieved that we're doing this, because now I have a chance to go through, clean out all the junk that I've saved over the years, and been able to take advantage of streamlining their processes. The second thing you're going to want to think about is administration of the system, how easy it is to implement, administer, and maintain. And what we found out so far using Integro Email Manager, we've had those one-off cases where somebody needs to be added really quickly, or we need to get them up to speed on training, or something like that. Very easy to do. We work very closely with IT. We've got our processes down, and we can get them up and running literally probably within an hour, hour and a half, get the new tool installed for them on their computer. And then, of course, you want to think about the records management side. How are you going to control the classification and the storage and the access to the information that the teammates need? So all things to think about when you're considering a solution. So let's talk a little bit about the user experience. And I want to spend a little bit of time on this slide because I think this can be the biggest drawback, but for us, it's been a very positive experience. I'm going to highlight the first one here. Email is extremely personal. When I think about my email, I've got a couple of customer accounts that I use. I use my Integro account. I've also got Gmail and Yahoo and Hotmail, for personal accounts. I know how I like to file my stuff. And I was actually talking with Scott a couple months ago, and I said, the interesting thing that I've observed on this project is that we're not rolling out a tool to a company. We're rolling out a tool to over 30,000 individual people that handle their email 30,000 different ways. And what we're asking them to do is bring how they work kind of into a more structured environment. And what we discovered is that we had 3 main types of email users within the company. We had filers, we had pilers, and we had deleters. So we have those people that use a lot of folders on the side. We have people that leave a lot of stuff in their inbox. And then surprisingly to Scott, we had a substantial number of people that were deleters. So once they saw an email, they responded to it, they didn't need it anymore, they actually deleted. So you want to pick a tool that accommodates all 3 of those types of email personalities. Tightly integrating and supporting current user behaviors is basically what that leads to. So for me, I'm very much a filer. I like those folders on the side. So rather than having to tag the email or select a records category for that email when it comes in my inbox, I can actually drag and drop that to a folder that I've records enabled ahead of time. You know, it took me, 10 seconds to records enable that to a category. And then every time I have an email that fits that category, I simply drag and drop it to that folder, and it's automatically tagged, and I'm done. So my interaction with my email has not changed substantially on this project, just because I do things like I normally did. It's just I have to remember, if I create a new folder, if I want to store records in that folder, I records enable it, and I can go about my day. So it's very little impact to me, and that has really driven our adoption for this company. Allowing users to personalize their records choices. When I talk about our records categories, which tie in with our retention schedule, we have about 130 categories, right, covering the entire organization. Most of our employees are only using 6 to 8 of those categories on a regular basis. So within the tool, they can go in, see an entire list of the records, all 130 records categories, and just select the ones that apply to them. So it cuts that down to 6 to 8, and then they don't have to scroll through that entire list of categories. The email can either be managed in place, right in your inbox, and you can use user-defined folders. In this case, the company that we're working with, the emails are not stored on the Exchange server. Once they're declared a record, they're actually put in IBM product on the back end. So the email will stay in their inbox for 6 months and then be automatically deleted. But they can also always go back to what they're calling the reserve and search for the email there. And the feedback that we got on that was a little nervous at first, just because people are so used to working in their inboxes. But the search capabilities far outstripped what they had in Outlook, and we've gotten some really good feedback on just being able to search the IBM solution for their emails and getting quick responses on that. So another tool that we're rolling out in conjunction with this project, or we're getting ready to roll it out, it hasn't gone out yet, is one of the Integro tools called Smart Assist. So how this fits in is that we're developing a knowledge base based on their past emails, things that have been archived, and we're training our Smart Assist tool to look for records or potential records based on the categories. So as the employees begin to tag their records live, Smart Assist is going out there, it's scanning those emails, learning what kind of emails, or looking for key phrases, key terms, both within the email and within the attachments, to say, hey, this might potentially be a record. Or if the confidence is high enough, we know this is a record, and it will automatically tag it as it hits the employee's inbox. And I'll show you how that shows up in just a minute here. But all of this is done with human oversight. So if it ends up that Smart Assist shows that, hey, this is a record and it's really not, you can definitely go in and take the tag off of there before it hits the IBM managed environment. So some keys to success on this project as we've gone along, and I've been working on this since August. One, I'm going to talk about the excellent training and the job aids that were put together. We know how, for me especially in training, I tend to, I'll watch the training, I'll pay attention, but I don't retain everything. In this case, they have actually 3 sessions. They have a general records management session that they do. Then they have a session specifically on tagging emails and how to do that. And then they have a session on how to search the IBM repository. And what we found was we got really good feedback. They're very professionally done, but it was a lot to take in. And so what they started doing was breaking these down into 1 to 3 minute videos on very specific topics like how to tag or how to search, or what their archives what was going to happen with their archives going forward. So they broke them down into very manageable sessions, posted that on their portal, and they did that. They started these smaller segment ones about 2 weeks ago. They've had 100,000 hits just on those short video sections. So that's been very successful for their training. We also do what we call records talks, where we have a half-hour set aside every Tuesday through Friday. We do those through WebEx, about a 10-minute, 15-minute presentation, and then we open it up for Q&A. We've done over 100 of those so far, again, based on the fact that we're rolling out to 30,000 employees, but they've been very well attended. We've had some great questions, and we've really been able to help their employees as they start working through records management. As far as the job aids go, they've created a bunch of 1 to 2 page PDF files. These are all branded with their records program logos and things like that, but they will walk through a teammate exactly the steps they need to take, maybe on how to tag a record. It'll show screenshots, and they've just been very professionally done, very well done. A lot of teammates have used those as well. For this size of a rollout, and I don't know obviously how big everybody's company is, but for this size of a project, we developed a help desk. That's actually my role on this project, is leading the help desk. So the employees can send us a message through ServiceNow. We can respond to them that way. And we've also done a lot of what we call lounge passes, where they get 15 minutes in the lounge with us, one-on-one sessions where we can answer their questions directly. So those have been some of the keys to success for us. Some lessons learned. I think initially what we decided to do early on was to develop a knowledge base of frequently asked questions that were coming in, so that we could really give a standard answer out. Those questions have grown over time. Right now we're actually at about 200 items. Those are kept in a spreadsheet that we all have access to. We tried to use ServiceNow, but it was very IT geared or intensive and a little clunky for us. And the spreadsheet has actually worked out really well. So a standard question, a standard answer, who approved the answer, and when it was changed over time. The other thing that we really learned is you can never provide too many training opportunities. I talked about our job aids, the videos, the one-on-one, the open line, and the records champions. The reason I say that is because everybody learns differently. So for me, I learn really well visually and actually walking through how to do something. The videos work really well for me. Other teammates really like the job aids. They like something they can print off and look at over and over and over again. So that's how they learn. But I don't think you can provide too many of those opportunities. Finally, the communications plan. When you're rolling out, this is going to be vital. You really need to spend a lot of time on a good communications plan. The employees are really going to accept the change much more easily if they know what to expect and if they know what's coming. So in this case, we started doing maybe once a month, we do a little highlight. They actually had the vice president, one of the vice presidents of the company, that did a video talking about what was coming. We were highlighting it in team meetings across the organization. So they knew it was coming, and they really didn't have an excuse to say, well, what is this? I didn't know anything about it. As we developed our rollout waves, again, we're doing 9 to 10 of those. Each wave has specific branded communications that start at least 4 weeks before their go live. And they're telling them, hey, your training is now open. You can go ahead and take the training, attend one of the records talks that we're doing, and just giving them kind of a list, a different list actually, each week as they're getting ready to go through and go live. So I think it was very well done, very targeted, very specific, and it's made a great success, or helped make a great success for the rollout. So again, we're rolling out to about 30,000 employees. We started tracking our tickets, with questions last, I want to say early December, maybe late November. We've already had 2,000 questions come in. Right now we're getting maybe 10 to 12 a day that come, everything from records questions to, hey, my tool's not working, which we can pass off to IT. But I was expecting a considerably higher number of tickets, but I think the communications and the training plan has really kept that down. And we're seeing some good response with people understanding what they need to do and moving the project forward. So if you're going to do a project like this, make sure you've got a really good communications plan in place. And they're getting ongoing communications as well. We're tracking statistics, how often people are tagging, are they tagging to the right category? And so they're still, even though they've gone live, they're still getting ongoing statistics and reminders. So real quick, what our tool looks like in the inbox. It's very unobtrusive. What you see here is actually the tool popped open, but you'll see on the left-hand side here, it has the categories that they can choose from. Again, these are customizable, so they only see what they need to see. Most teammates, again, 6 to 8 categories in here instead of all 130. If you collapse it, it's a very thin ribbon right on the left-hand side. When they tag an email, it has a blue check mark in it. And when that goes to the repository, the blue check mark will turn to what we're calling a yellow torn paper icon. I usually call it a post-it note, but yellow torn paper icon. When Smart Assist kicks in, emails that come in will have a red check mark if they're auto-declared, or they'll have a yellow star if it's suggesting a category that this might be a record. Again, not every email coming in is going to get those designations, only the ones that meet a certain criteria. So very unobtrusive. Teammates have not had any problem adapting to that at all. So with that, Kristen, can we go ahead and open it up for Q&A questions?
Yeah, definitely. We have some questions ready for you. Scott, did you want to say anything before we go into questions?
Just briefly, Brian, that was great. Thank you very much. Good sharing of knowledge in the real world and the front lines. And we should do another one of these for a small organization of a few hundred employees and compare contrasts for best practices. But good job, Brian. Thank you. And I think today we can open the mic if you want to. We can unmute somebody if someone wants to ask live. Otherwise, you can type in your questions and we'll answer them there. So you'll see it on the bottom right of the panel. Kristen, go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you want to be unmuted, please just raise your hand. It'll be an icon available to you that you can click, and I'll know to unmute you. And just so you guys know, we are at the 30-minute mark, so if you have to drop off, that's totally fine. This recording will be available after we end the webinar, and I can get that to you if you want to hear the questions later. But for now, let's just proceed and get some questions answered. First question for you, Brian. What questions do you receive most frequently?
Yeah, great question. We receive, I think it changes over time. You know, when we were originally doing this in the pilot program, there was a lot of more technical questions. You know, where is stuff being stored? How long will it be stored? How long will it stay in my inbox? That kind of thing. Now that we're in general rollout and we've rolled out to most of the employees at this point, we're getting a lot more records-based questions. So, you know, is this a record? Or they'll describe a scenario where I'm getting an email from an outside source. Is that something that I need to tag as a record? So I think it changes over time, and you just kind of have to be prepared for that. But that's the kind of questions that have been coming in.
Hey, Brian, Scott here. What was the culture like at the company? Were they already savvy and educated on records management, or were they? What was their
yeah.
culture?
Yeah, not at all. So the records, they're building this program from scratch. And I think there's people, depending on the department, obviously legal is a lot more in tune with records management, and they were one of the biggest supporters of, I should tell you, legal and compliance, great support from them. And they were a little more savvy about records, even though they still, we still needed to do some training with them, much more in tune. But most of the general population of the company, I would say, they just kept everything. And rather than making a consideration, was it a record or not, they were keeping almost everything. So great, it's a big culture change for them, but one that they're adapting to very quickly.
Yeah, good. I see a couple more questions in there. Maybe I'll take them here. So Integro is an add-on, is the question. And so yes, Integro is a value add to your messaging system for either Lotus Notes and Domino, if you've got that system, or Exchange on-premise like this client, or Office 365 in the cloud, Exchange in the cloud. So any of those work in there. And somebody else asked about what IBM products are part of this solution. So first off, the product can run kind of standalone or with a back-end system. So in this one here, it would be FileNet with the P8 Content Manager, the Records Manager product, IBM Enterprise Records, and then the discovery parts of that. So eDiscovery Manager and Analyzer are part of that for IBM. And by the way, we also now archive to Box, and so that opens up some doors for folks as well. And let's see, Jill asked, how long do you expect the rollout to take? So Brian, I think back to you.
Sure, good question. So we started with our rollout on March 13th. That was with the VPs and above. And we roll out probably it depends, but we've been rolling out on an average about every 3 weeks to about 3,000 employees. We had our 8th wave went live on Tuesday, and we have one more general wave that we need to do for a department in August, and then probably a catch-up wave at the end for anybody that got missed. With a company this size, you're going to have new hires that come in on a regular basis, or a company that they just bought that has to be integrated in. So we expect this to go probably till September for this first phase. And then there's some groups and departments that were not included in the original scope that they will probably tackle early next year.
Scott, do you want to continue with the questions, or would you like me to?
Well, I was on mute already answering it. Yeah, so I'll go on. Jill also asked if users can search email records from Outlook, and yes, they can, would be the short answer to that question. And then I think then there's also part of it about onboarding, handling onboarding employees. And Brian, is that just part of their orientation then, or training for as they get their new computer and systems?
Yeah.
Email management?
Yeah, they'll be doing that with new employees that come on. It will probably be this fall. So for right now, what they're doing is they just submit a ticket with the employee's name and ID and their email address, and then we have a special wave, rollout wave that we add them to so they can get the tools right away. But eventually, this will be a standard computer setup, and it will be. They actually have a learning program where they take their required training on a regular basis, and this will be added to their transcript. And it is tracked, it is required training, and they do get notifications if they're late. So it will be part of the onboarding process.
Got to keep on them. Hey,
yeah,
Brian,
right.
That was great. We're at 6 minutes past the hour, and we still have a very high percentage of the people still on the line. So thank you, everybody, for joining and attending and giving us your little bit of your precious time out of your day. And we know how busy you all are. So thanks for joining us, and have a great day.
All right. Thank you, everybody.